head to talk about the Dolphins next, who finished, where did they finish last year? 15th or something? 14th?
13th.
13th, close enough. How's the draw look, first of all?
Yeah, they got a pretty tough draw. 7 games against the top 4, so play almost everyone twice. 2 5-day turnarounds, and I think they only had 4 games against the bottom 3. So for mine, it's probably one. Yeah, it's right up there with one of the tougher draws.
It is an awful draw. They do play the Tigers twice, but they also cop Brisbane. They cop all the Queensland teams twice, the Knights and the Warriors as well. They end, as I said earlier, they cop all 3 games without their Origin players. So 3 games are going to be out without. They have to play every Origin round basically before. Not ideal because I assume you'd lose the likes of Hammer and Flegler and co. You got a trial this week against the Titans, trial next week against the Warriors. They've lost Herman SASA, Poasa Fasumoali, who's also gone to Canterbury to, exist there, and Oliver Gildhart. They've picked up Jake Averillo from Canterbury, Herbie, Tom Flegler, Herbie Farnsworth, for those that don't know, Tom Flegler and Oren Keeley from the Knights. Their best 17, I would suggest, looks something like this. Tabai Fado at fullback, Azarko, Farnsworth, Aitken, Tessie New on the wing, Katoa and O'Sullivan in the halves. I would, be looking at Nicarima, but that's me. Flegler, Jerry Marshall King, Bromwich at prop, Bromwich second row, Kafusi, Ray Stone at lock, and Said Cody at 14, Wallace 15, Nichols and Lemuelu. Rough draw, as we said.
You don't have Tom Gilbert in your top 17?
I do have Tom Gilbert in my top 17. Potentially at lock, I would suggest.
You're playing lock for me.
Yes.
Yeah.
Which pushes one of them out and Ray Stone back to the... I just forgot about him, to be honest. Sorry, Tom. I like your work. It's really good.
I love how you look down the barrel of the camera for that too.
Just in case.
Tom Gilbert should be in that team. Absolutely. So what do we do juggling... some of these signings? Jake Averillo up there doesn't make the team.
No, I don't think so.
Unless he's going to be fullback, but then... What is this team?
Hammer for that.
What even is this team, Barney?
They're very similar team to last year, except they've actually added a couple of guys there that I think add some... There's obviously some punch in the middle coming through with Flegler.
Yes.
Farnworth was one of the best centres running around in the competition last year, so you throw him in there as well. I think it's only upside, realistically, coming out of the Dolphins this year. A play style reliant heavily on the middle forwards to gain position, and a reliance on of one-on-one attacks with their outside backs. Definitely needs some more organisation and structure out of their halves. We saw when Sullivan wasn't there was times where they really fell apart in the middle of the field trying to organise their attack. Hopefully, fully fit and firing, he adds another dimension to this team with his kicking game and organisational skills.
A year older and wiser, are they your go-to halves?
Well, that was my next, a year under the belt for Katoa. Showed some good signs, especially early and a couple of games later on in the year, but did sort of get lost along the throes of first-grade footy for big parts of the season. Can only see him gaining benefit out of that going forward. Defensive issue with both of those guys in the halves will be targeted, but do have the guys there that can cover for them in the some of those defensive guys like the Bromwiches and Kafusi that can make a few extra tackles to try and make up for their halves. I think the halves will be slightly better. And there's a little bit more punch in the middle with Flegler and an opportunity with one-on-one stuff with Farnworth as well. We saw how effective he was one-on-one when he given time against his defensive counterparts. I really think the Dolphins are in for a good year of challenging in and around that bottom of the 8.
What are you doing with you and Aitken? Centres?
Yes.
Back row?
Centres, yeah.
And the old boys all going to be there?
Oh, absolutely. They'll probably miss a few games through injury. It's just a matter of fact. The older you get, the less games that they put out most of the time, unless you're one of those guys that runs around with no legs on, like Tohu. But even he misses a game or two here and there. They do have some good guys like Lemuelu had a fantastic year last year, and now he's back on the bench. You know what I mean? So there's cover there in the back row. Tom Gilbert missed big chunk of the season. Only derived benefit for having him at lock. He was a fantastic footballer, and he's one of my favourites at the moment, to be honest. And you get him into that lock position will add a hell of a lot of aggression and very good defender as well in the middle of the field. So
I just think I'm not necessarily tipping to make the 8. My concern is that is the same concern I had last year, is that they're an old forward pack.
Yep.
But what they've done, and it turns out Wayne Bennett, has a bit of an idea about footy, that they're going in the right direction. So that they laid the concrete base. They said, right, we're going to bring the Bromwiches in Kafusi, and they're the blokes, as I've said on the show before, they're the blokes that are going to be the trainers and runners and, yellow shirts for the next 10 years. Let's get them in now. Second year, they've gone and got an Origin forward. They've gone and got someone else who's in the top 5 centres in the comp. Work-wise, and they have progressed their young fellas enough. Like Chester's taken off. We know we get from Ray Stone, just a stone, a tough little fucker. And so it's starting to grow. I think maybe 1 or 2 more years, they're going to be in a fantastic spot as a club. That all being said, I just want to wait 1 or 2 more years before I get really invested. But Bennett's got the best out of what he did for Azaka, what he did for Hammer, what he did for Tessie New. All great players, but they've
got the best out of them, and they could
better out
regress.
Of them.
Yeah.
The halves are a concern. I just want to see them do it before 100%. I just say, hey, they make the 8. Everything else looks great. Great, they're heading the right way. I think they're going to be in that lower clump of the 8 to 12 clump. But I want to see turnover. I want to start seeing, Bostock at some point. You want to start seeing some of those other... who was the other prop we never even saw last year? There's a young fella, Max Plus a half. A few of the blokes along the same line, like Wallace is now 35. I think they could potentially put together a lot of good wins, but I can see the last 6 to 8 rounds just being a complete gas out and dropping off again. Which is my concern.
Without injuries, where are you going to find any room for Bostock?
I don't. No, yeah. I don't. Yeah, that's
I'm not sure.
Exactly. What are your thoughts? Are you on my back?
There's a lot of concerns about the halves for me. I was not overly impressed with Katoa last year. Yeah. He's still very green and needs...
I can see Nicarima end up just playing 6.
Yeah.
A few rounds in. I assume... And maybe we'll start the year there. And I know they got Milford there, but come on. I can see them...
Got Averillo there too. Could play in halves if he has to.
I can see them backing O'Sullivan and I know you're a big fan of him, Bun. But absolutely. I can see him being there, and then Nicarima. Nicarima is the one that's going to put points on. I didn't see a lot of that out of Katoa, whereas Nicarima, one of the best in the comps for digging that line, throwing that ball through the line, opening a gap. It just amazing what he did some games last year. So.
And O'Sullivan, for me, probably needs another year away from the Penrith system before he sort of gets that out of his brain and works with what he's got, rather than these are the systems that are in place, whereas there's nobody there that knows exactly how it's meant to mentally run before you actually execute it physically.
Yep.
So, although Crystal has tipped them to win the comp, I fail to have the same sort of optimism for them.
Yeah, depth... few question marks if you start really digging into the 25. I think they can counteract a bit of that issue with the ball playing from the halves with offloads. Kafusi can throw an offload, so can...
What's Flegler mean for him as well?
Well, he should get him. He's going to be your first 1-2 hit up man. He's going to be the guy that just goes charging through the middle and hopefully lands on his front and gets a quick play the ball for the next bloke to do it. Jeremy Marshall-King was tremendous in the time he spent on the field last year. For mine, he's going to be my super coach hooker to start the year, and hopefully pin my hopes on him for the entirety of the season, because when he was up and going, he was absolutely flying, tearing defences apart.
Well, I did it for Egan, so just so you know. And what's he? He's currently 630. 89, 33, didn't play for 3 weeks. 53, 89, 72, 68, 78, 69, and then the rest of the year was a non-event. But at his best, he absolutely has been consideration.
And yeah, if you can get some offloads out of the likes of Gilbert and the back rowers, I think that can counteract a little bit of that ball playing in the middle. But it's a massive issue that the Dolphins have, and they're probably a top quality half away from being a top 8 team in and out all over. But yeah, so.
And I feel like they'll find it. I think in the next 2 years they will either these two will come on, or they'll just go to market and try and find maybe an Adam Dewey or someone. I don't know. Complete left field there, but
I'm not sure he's a top quality half. But anyway, move on.
Here's the Tigers, all right.
Alrighty. I think age is the concern. One more year. It's like let's watch them ripen. One more year, they'll miss out this year and then get involved. But Jerry Marshall King was absolutely the form hooker last year for the first 8 weeks of the comp. Would have been the Kiwi hooker if he was fit. Amazing. And is there a debate to be had? Is there any interest for you blokes looking at maybe instead of just chiming in at Harry Grant at 750, going Egan and Marshall King or someone else and doubling down as pods, or what are you thinking that way?
I'll probably end up with one of the two, and then I'm looking elsewhere for the reserve hooker.
Okay.
I think there's a bit of money to be made in that reserve hooker spot, and if you can hold off on Harry for maybe a month, 4 to 6 weeks, I think you might find he drops 50 to 100, and you might be able to jump on him then. But
yeah, just looking through some Supercoach stars in this team, but transition's going to be interesting. The other thing is how when I say they're going to be ripe in a year, it's also how they need to come up with a new forward pack in the next 2 years.
100%.
And that's the other concern. Once both Bromwiches and Kafusi go, and Kafusi's I think a couple of years younger, you need to have a Mason Teague, who was the one I was trying to think of earlier, or those sort of blokes come through.
Well, they've started with Flegler, obviously. If they're going to need to pick up 2 or 3 forwards in the next season or two.
Yeah. Gilbert becoming a genuine top liner. They've got Lemuelu. They do have some meat in the bones. It's just where they take it next.